All right, so our next keynote speaker has over 20 years of experience in the financial technology industry and field. Most recently, she was the managing director at startup Bootcamp FinTech London. Currently, she's the managing director and thought leadership at Rainmaking, which is a global cooperative for entrepreneurs seeking to create positive change through entrepreneurship. So please let's give her a huge round of applause to Elizabeth Lumley.
Rainmaking, and is that too? We're good. So when we run several startup bootcamp branded accelerator programs, namely the FinTech program. And the FinTech program was launched in London in 2014, and we now operate in London, Singapore, New York, Mumbai. We're soon to announce Mexico City, and we are investigating opening up one in Dubai. So if anyone wants to talk to me about Dubai, see me afterwards. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about trends that we're seeing dealing with startups at Startup Bootcamp, and some of the case studies that we have with our large banking clients to give you an idea of some of the trends that we're seeing in FinTech. So I wanted to take you a little bit into who we are and what we do at Startup Bootcamp. So we're an accelerator program, and these words get bandied about a lot, accelerator, incubator, lab. We're an accelerator program, and what that means is we take in startups as a cohort in a physical location for 3 months. We accelerate them. We do 12 to 18 months of your startup's life in 3 months, and then after that 3 months, you graduate and you leave, and you go out and you grow up into the world. That's what an accelerator program is. So last year, we had about 500 startups apply to the London program, and we travel the world looking for these startups. So we end up seeing thousands and thousands of FinTech and financial services-focused startups. From that 500, once we close applications, we take about 60 startups. We do due diligence on them. And from those 60, we take 20. We bring them into London for a 4-day selection day process. And from that 20, we pick a cohort. And those are the group that gets in. And the group that picks them are this. So how we operate is we are funded by corporate partners. So our FinTech partners include, Intesa Sanpaolo, largest Italian bank, Lloyds Banking Group, Rabobank, DBS, Route 66 Ventures, for example. And we've also split off our insurance program as a separate program from FinTech, and we did that last year. They're currently in program right now in London in about their 6th week. The reason why we did that is we felt insurance had needed its own dedicated focus from FinTech. And if you are looking for something that's at the top of the hype cycle right now, especially in the London market, InsurTech is very exciting, while a lot of people back in the UK and Europe are very, very wary of FinTech right at the moment. So it's basically from this group that picks our startup. And they all get one vote and come in at the end. And this is sort of statistics from all of the Startup Bootcamp programs. It's actually 400 startups now. And we work on a benchmark that 80% are still trading within a year, and we have hit that benchmark for London, and 70% get funding within 3 months of demo day. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our alumni. When I first started in what was called financial information technology back in 1994, it wasn't called FinTech. So now when we look at FinTech, #friendly FinTech, we look at a wide group of people. And so when FinTech first started being used as a name, people thought of it as payments. And payments was kind of the original gateway into FinTech. And then, of course, there's retail banking. And there are still a lot of people that think of FinTech as only payments and retail banking. Well, I have to tell you that we have seen from our application data and who's in the cohort, that is no longer true. So we see from crowdfunding, InsurTech. 2015, we had half our cohort was focused on the asset management industry. Of course, we see blockchain and cryptocurrency, but I'm going to go into a little bit on that in the end. We see a lot of regulation in cybersecurity. Probably 80% of the startups we see are B2B focused startups. These startups come into our program because they want to work with our corporate partners. We only had very few consumer-facing products, and that's where FinTech. The way I can kind of see it is this sort of evolution of FinTech. So it starts in retail banking, and it's going into corporate banking, and it'll soon come into investment banking. So if you work at a bank and you think you're safe from the new raft of digital startups, you're not really. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think, banks have always had an easy relationship with technology. My mother was assistant head of operations at Boston Guarantee and Trust Bank in Boston in the 60s, and she saw across the ticker tape in the office that President John F. Kennedy had been shot 2 hours before it hit the radio and television. Banks had that technology then. Of course, the trading floors turned into this. Back in those simple times of Charlie Sheen in the 80s and Quotron terminals, turned into a massive trading floor, which is now, of course, all electronic. And of course, does anyone remember this? When I was 12 years old, I had a paper route, and I opened up a bank account, and this is what they gave you, a passbook. Of course, which turned into this. And of course, now all of us are walking around with, any branch in the world in our pockets. Banks are moving down that evolutionary corridor. So, as I mentioned, I've been in sort of financial information technology for over 20 years, and what I did was I really looked at how banks use technology and how they buy technology. And these were the companies that I spent a lot of time with, the Bloombergs, the Accentures, the Thomson Reuters, the IBMs. And that was a very nice, cozy world that everyone was very familiar with. And banks know how to deal with these players. Banks can send a 100-page lawyer document to Thomson Reuters, and they're not going to blink. However, what we do at Rainmaking is we really help banks deal with this world. Because when FinTech came in, that cozy financial information technology world exploded into this. And these guys are a lot smaller, and they cannot handle the relationship that banks have with an IBM or a Thomson Reuters. They cannot have an 18-month sales cycle. They cannot have a 100-page lawyer document. And the point of this particular slide is how the new sort of FinTech startups are slowly chipping away at some of the products at banks now. So this is what banks are dealing with and what the startups are dealing with right now, the new world. So I wanted to take you through a little bit of some of the data that we got at Startup Bootcamp based on our application data. And I have to apologize. I know it says 2016, but we really don't have the 2016 data in from last year's cohort because I'm still waiting for it. I thought I would have it in time. So this is mostly from the 2015 cohort that we had. So as I mentioned, we saw a huge explosion in investment management in FinTech. So we had 9 FinTech startups in 2015, and 5 of them were focused on the asset management space. And none of them were robo-advisors. So they were looking at crowdsourced equity research. They were looking at AI and intraday trading, wealth management platforms, fund manager dashboards. And all of these people are people who came from the industry themselves. So people who were wealth managers at banks like UBS, people who were fund managers at Newton. So the average age of our FinTech founder is 38 years old. These aren't young kids in hoodies. These are people from the industry who know the problems and know the pain points and are leaving it to start startups to fix it. So blockchain I have to mention because it's the law. We saw a lot of blockchain and cryptocurrency-based startups. We only had 1 get in the final cohort in 2015, and we had 1 get in the cohort in 2016. We saw a lot of people who understood the technology who didn't understand the financial services industry very well, which is why I'm someone who is both incredibly bullish and incredibly bearish about blockchain. I think you're going to see a real impact on blockchain in the non-financial services industry first, before you're going to see it really, really change the financial services industry. And I think it will. I think it's going to take a bit more time than some people like. And so this is some of the data that we got from PwC, who's one of our partners, based on a FinTech survey that they put together, which is that about 45% of UK corporate respondents felt that their company was putting FinTech at the heart of their strategy. However, only 35% surveyed engaged in joint partnerships with FinTech, and even fewer, 27%, have purchased services from FinTech companies. We're seeing a huge appetite to engage with FinTech startups, but it's a learning process. It's a learning process for everyone. There are mindsets on either side of the bridge, on the startups and banks, that you just open the door to the bank and walk in, and magic will happen. The banks will automatically get innovative new services, and the startups will get a great new banking customer, and it just doesn't work that way. Remember, the banks know how to deal with IBM. They don't know how to deal with 5 guys and some code. So what we do is we bring the startups in to do pilots and proof of concepts with the bank and hold their hand and work on very dedicated projects to ensure that there is a success in this partnership. So I want to take you through a little bit closely about our cohort so that you can get an idea of the types of startups we're seeing. So this was the 2015 class. Noticed the video that was played about FinTech in MENA Money Fellows was one of our startups in 2015. They're based in Egypt. They were our only consumer-facing product. So the 5 asset management were Bondit from Israel, which is bond allocation software for machine learning. Cybertonica from Russia was payments fraud. Delia was from Canada. That's a fund management dashboard. Delia was a wealth management platform. Sorry. Obsidian Solutions is a fund management platform. StockViews is crowdsourced equity research. They were our only pre-Brexit London-based startup. Walnut Algorithms were from Paris. They were using AI for trading. Tradle was our one and only blockchain startup out of New York, which was looking at KYC. And WarPay was from Lithuania. And they were a payments bridge that allowed you to use any mobile wallet with any merchant using order and pay. And this was our new class. Of course, we had a chatbot, enterprise bot for customer service, which we saw a lot of startups in that space as well. Europe One, Manova, Zenith, Penta, Railsbank, all looking at the corporate banking market, the SME market as well. Zero Flows, again, looking at the buy side. So I wanted to take you through a little bit about why banks should work with startups. And it's not so they can buy them, invest in them, or even have a commercial relationship with them. Because we're very honest with our banking clients that most of the startups that come through Startup Bootcamp FinTech are probably way too small to have a commercial relationship with them. But they can have pilots and proof of concepts and a relationship. So why do the banks get involved? And they get involved in order to learn. So Danske Bank is an interesting example. They're not actually a partner of Startup Bootcamp. They're a partner of Rainmaking. And what they did is they came to us and said, we want to work with startups. And what they meant by that was they wanted to be the bank for startups in the Nordics. They wanted the startups as clients, as customers. And so what we did is we surveyed about 1,000 entrepreneurs in the Nordics, and we tried to find out what they needed most. And what the entrepreneurs needed was help recruiting talent, help finding investors, sample term sheets. They wanted to share knowledge with each other. They wanted tools and mentors. And so what we came up with was called the Hub. And this is what it looks like. And if you notice, there's very little Danske Bank, almost no Danske Bank branding on this, but Danske Bank behind it. It is a free service for startups in the Nordics. It's been going in Denmark for a year and a half. It's launching in Sweden very soon. And it is a free resource for all the things that startups need. Now, why did Danske Bank want to do this? Because they could then learn. They wanted to observe startups. They wanted to see how they acted and how they behaved so that they can build products to suit their needs. And they are getting that learning. That's the ROI, and that's the measurement. So I mentioned WarPay a little bit. I'm not going to play the video because it doesn't always play. But this is WarPay, which was the payments bridge software, did a pilot with Lloyds Banking Group. In fact, actually, they didn't do a pilot with Lloyds Banking Group. They did a pilot with Gartner & Gartner, which is the catering company that handles Lloyds Banking Group. But it was facilitated by the Innovation Lab at Lloyds. And they have now rolled out this product to all of the Lloyds Banking Group offices in the UK. And what it does is it cuts down the queuing time in the morning and any time to order a coffee at the coffee shops in their building. So you pay for it on your phone, wait for a text, and go pick it up. And they found a huge amount of man-hour savings in this because of it. So I think I'm nice and short, aren't I? Was that good? I've got 5 more minutes. Oh, well, we can, if you want to play this video, if it plays. No, it doesn't always play. Lovely. Well, you know, I think since we're going back, I will thank you very much for your time. Thanks so much.
All right, so we're going to go out for a short coffee break. In case you're wondering what's happening in Hall B, there's been a matchup between the finalists from Ideathon and Startup Battle, and they're meeting different professionals to get mentorship and advice on their startups and ideas. But after the coffee break, there's going to be a panel on digital healthcare in this hall and a speed networking happening in Hall B, if you're interested in that. And don't forget to download our app. It allows you to keep up to date with the latest in our agenda and scheduling, and also allows you to network right live, basically, with people who have also downloaded the app in this conference. All right, well, enjoy your coffee break.